Greetings, kindred. Happy full moon to you all, wherever you are in the world. And this full moon is actually a micro moon, so the moon will appear pretty small in our skies. So let's get into it. The full moon will reach its peak on the 24th of February, 2024, at 12:30 here in the GMT time zone, London, at 7:30 in the EDT time zone, and at 23:30 in the AEDT time zone. So I do work with a 24-hour clock. So 12:30 here in the GMT time zone is afternoon, 7:30 EDT is morning, and of course 23:30 in the AEDT is nighttime, basically. So as our full moon reaches her peak, she will be at 17 degrees in Leo. Now I want to talk about the number of the degree a little bit. 17 is actually a very spiritual number. So it's all about our principles and immortality. So that's, eternal spirit. The life force always lives on, and representing eternal life. And with the unit principles, it's really all about the continuity of ideas and principles. So really it's all about universal law. You know, the universal law really does cover like unconditional love. The number 17 here is also about illumination. It gives us the understanding of life, but also science. It's influenced by the sign of Gemini, which is the positive side of Gemini, actually. So it's all about Gemini's intellectual force, intuition, and ability to reason. So this is a very powerful number for this full moon to reach its peak on. Now, there are quite sort of like challenging aspects and challenging planetary placements here, which is our moon is not just in opposition to the sun this full moon, as it always is at a full moon, but also the sun is in conjunction to Mercury and Saturn, which are also in opposition to our moon. The moon in Leo can be quite stubborn or emotionally proud. The moon in Leo is kind of known to be a little bit of a drama queen, does love the spotlight, is all about romance and entertainment. But the moon in Leo, in its negativity, can also be very self-centered and stubborn, also dominating. So there's a need here for the moon in Leo to be more authentic. And there needs to be this equality. It's a very masculine energy, whereas the moon is a feminine energy, as well as the number 17. So I really do feel this full moon, it really is about the masculine and feminine, like bringing those principles in a spiritual sense into balance. And it is very much about the spiritual versus the ego, the spiritual versus the material or physical, this full moon. So, we have to realize that there's more beyond this life, more beyond what we can actually see with our eyes. Do you know what I mean? There's this invisible kind of conditioning of spiritual humanitarian values that needs to be recognized. Now, that's not to say that we don't recognize that, but there may be many at the moment that are just really in like a place of confusion, or a place of like not wanting to move on from what they already know because they've committed to it, they're loyal to it, and they don't really want to face up to the fact that it's not really for the good like they thought it would be in the first place. And the reason why I say that is because we have the Black Moon Lilith here conjunct the goddess Juno. So there is a shadow cast over our commitments, over our sense of loyalty, especially when they're both in the sign of Leo. So even though they're a little bit away from the moon, it is still quite a big influence to this Leo moon. Because the Black Moon Lilith and the goddess Juno are in opposition to Saturn. And Saturn is a part of this opposition with the moon and the sun. And they are all creating a T-square towards the goddess Pallas, who is the goddess of pattern recognition. And in Scorpio, you know, maybe she's seeing things, but she doesn't really want to admit up to it. But it's expanding because 3 is the number of Jupiter. So I really do feel that even though there's many out there that are trying to hold on to something that's kind of like not what it first appeared to be, I do feel that this T-square that's being aimed towards the goddess Pallas is putting pressure onto us to actually come to that understanding. And I really don't feel we can, you know, hold on to that energy and hold it down. I just feel because, you know, Scorpio is the investigator. Jupiter, who rules the number 3, is all about expansion. So it's like information or inner knowing is really building and growing and it's going to burst. So we will have no choice but to face up to it, you know, if we're not. And this isn't just about our commitments. It can also, you know, commitments come in many forms, I should say. So we could be committed to our work, we could be committed to a project, or we could be committed to a cause or a person. Now, I'm thinking more along the lines of a cause because of the Aquarian energy here with Saturn, the Sun, and Mercury. So, you know, Leo is a great entertainer, and I'll get into why I'm saying that in a minute. Because we, first of all, want to talk about this T-square, get a little bit more information about this T-square out. So with Mercury in opposition to the moon, that it can cause a lot of confusion and irritation in social relationships, you know, pettiness and petty grievances. You know, if we have not done a lot of healing within ourselves, and we're not going to be seeing things clearly, you know, and we're not able to communicate clearly either, which can cause a lot of disruption. So I'm seeing a lot of social disruptions going on here with this energy. Also, you know, with Saturn in conjunction with the Sun, that kind of blocks our self-expression. And we can tend to like self-sabotage with that energy. So it's so important that we do tap into the universal law energy, that we do tap into our humanitarian values, that we do kind of practice the art of unconditional love. Because this division that's being created in all these different situations that I'm seeing going on in the world is not really going to benefit the future of our children and our children's children. And that's not to say that we shouldn't stand up for humanitarian values. We should, and we should be doing that with strong inner willpower. But with the moon square to the goddess Pallas, it only takes a trigger to push yourself into that self-protection mode. Because with Chiron in conjunction to the North Node, there is going to be triggers. And this conjunction was actually occurring at the new moon as well. So, there's a lot of triggers going off at the moment, especially when it comes to, deep, deep wounds. And these deep wounds don't just come from our own life experiences. They're also, can also come from like our DNA, passed down through the generations. So it can also be ancestral ties there as well, like triggers to our ancestral lineage, or, things that have been carried down through the DNA. So, if we're feeling triggered, then we really need to kind of focus on self-healing and not really becoming the victim. So in Leo, we can tend to get into that victim mode if our happiness is blocked in any way, or, not feeling we're being recognized, or anything along those lines, or we're not being heard. Do you know what I mean? But again, some of us may not be able to express ourselves with clarity, and there can be misunderstandings that come from that. Or we could just have so much information in our minds right now with this conjunction with the Sun and Mercury. So, when the Sun and Mercury are in conjunction under 4 degrees, and which it is, there's 3 degrees between them, it actually can create a mind overload or overthinking. So, we need to just kind of watch out for that. So, with Saturn in opposition to the moon and in opposition to the black moon Lilith, that can really be a dark energy that creates a lot of depression. And it could be that we're clinging on to old stuff, like whether that's relationships or commitments. It may be that we are, clinging on to that because we've put so much time and effort into it that we really don't want to face the fact that maybe we were wrong. And not to say that we went into it knowing we was wrong. It's just turned out that it wasn't actually what it appeared to be in the first place. And it could be our pride and our ego that prevents us from really facing up to that. But with this T-square, I don't think that we will get away with avoiding that. There's a very fine line between instinct and emotion. Sometimes we can go into things thinking that we might get emotional security from it, when in actual fact, it wasn't really, it's not going to be doing that. It's not going to be giving us the emotional security that we need, and especially in Leo as well, because like if we're in a relationship or a commitment where we're not getting that recognition for all the time and effort that we've put in, then why are we still there? We need to move on. We need to move on to a place where, just because sometimes we can get comfortable in situations that are not really good for us because it's what we know. And again, because of all the time and effort we've put into it, that we're not allowing ourselves to really leave that situation to find true happiness. So if we're feeling triggered, then we really need to take time out to really look at what's triggering us and where that actually stems from. And then we can heal it. That without a doubt, we need to stand up for what we believe in without fear of repercussions. Because either way, whether we stay in discomfort or even enter into discomfort to, It's like an either or either, really, because this T square really is showing me that if we stay where we're at and we know it's wrong, then we're going to be uncomfortable. But it's also going to be uncomfortable to actually get ourselves out of that. It's very uncomfortable. So whether we stay in it or get out of it, we're going to really experience discomfort anyway. So it's better to actually venture out. And even though it is an uncomfortable situation, at least we know that we're leaving ourselves open to actually find, the realness of what it is we're looking for instead of like a false illusion. So I hope I'm making sense there. So with Mercury in square to the goddess Pallas, again, like with this conjunction as well with the Sun and Mercury, this square can actually cause overthinking or even like critical thinking, so we must really do the research, get all the facts, don't act on like thoughts alone. If we get a thought in our mind, then we need to confirm that thought is right first before we act on it. And with Saturn in square to the goddess Pallas, maybe there's a little bit of procrastination going on as well. Clear thinking is definitely needed this full moon, but also effort must be put into making a decision. So it will take hard work and a lot of effort, but it is for the future, like I said. It is to bring back integrity. And integrity has to be at the forefront of any decisions that we make or any actions that we take. And that is what I feel this T square is all about. But what we do have here is this beautiful kite. We have Jupiter, who's at 11 degrees as well, and the Sun and Saturn. No, Saturn is at 11 degrees, and the midheaven, actually. So I just want to talk about this a little bit because this will only really apply to the GMT time zone. So really UK. So with the midheaven in conjunction to Saturn at 11 degrees, I feel there's something going on within our governmental institutions, maybe, HMRC or political structure even, or with businesses, or it could even be like the medical industry or even the psychological industry, scientific industry. There's something going on there. There's something going on there that will emerge. I mean, Saturn in the true lifetime sky rules the 12th house. And here in the 12th house, we have Uranus in Aries still. Uranus will move into Taurus in April or May. And I am going to be doing a video about that very soon because we also have the comet Hans Brooks going over around about the same time. And it will be at the time of the eclipse as well. So, that will all be happening in April. I think actually Uranus moves into Taurus in May. So I think the eclipse happens into April just before Uranus moves into Taurus. But anyway, so yeah, I just feel there's something gonna be put out to the public. Definitely with Jupiter. Jupiter's the ruler of the 11th house in the true lifetime sky, and he is at 11 degrees. So I really do feel there's something being put out into the public. Now, I feel it's connected to science and the medical industry. And with Chiron conjunct the North Node, I really do feel that something's coming out into the public and it is coming from behind the scenes. So whether that's for the good or bad, we will have to wait and see. But getting back to the sky, so we have Jupiter in trine to the goddess Ceres, and Ceres is in trine to the moon. So our moon is involved in this aspect, grand aspect as well, and the moon back in trine to Jupiter. So this is a fire trine, which is all about our inner strength, our willpower, and we do have the sun on top of the kite, conjunct Saturn and Mercury, of course. So with the moon in trine to Jupiter, it's all about our spiritual devotion. It's all about our generosity of spirit. Our imaginations, though, can be quite expansive. So we do need to watch out for all this overthinking or being rash when we're coming to making a decision. But it does give us a sense of abundance as well. But we mustn't be over optimistic because, like I say, trines are in easy flow. And sometimes, this flow, we can take things for granted, especially with our health, since Jupiter is in trine to the goddess Ceres. So we really must, with the goddess Ceres in Sagittarius, and Jupiter is actually the ruler of Sagittarius, Ceres at 9 degrees. I feel also it's about diet or about the food industry. So again, I'm feeding food or maybe medical, going on around the medical industry, whether that's our hospitals or the medical industry in general. I just feel we need to watch out for that. With Ceres in trine to the moon, that can be minds coming together, like-minded people coming together. But it's all about being compassionate, generosity of spirit. Because what I like about fire trines is with these planets involved, is about, to me, it's about generosity of spirit, being charitable towards others. So if we're looking after people in the community or looking out for people in the community or even on a global level, then, we're doing the right things as long as we're not burning ourselves out or making rash decisions based on our own wounds. Do you know what I mean? As long as we're doing the healing, doing the work, doing a bit of research, getting all our facts together first before we make decisions, and also if we're procrastinating, it could be that we're not feeling comfortable in the situation we're in right now. But again, we need to kind of look at that as well. So on the whole, I feel, there's a lot of opportunities around this full moon for us to really get into our self-power. I feel we're being forced out of our comfort zones for those of us that are feeling a bit stuck right now. And we could be feeling a bit stuck because April's around the corner. We all know that, here in the UK, we've got our yearly budget coming up. So, yeah, maybe there's a little bit of shock around the budget. I don't know. But normally that information's put out a little bit beforehand. So we could be hearing something around the full moon or within the next 2 weeks regarding the budget as well. But yeah, I just feel there's a little bit of a shock coming to people in the UK, either around the medical industry or around the budget, something along those lines. So with the sun in sextile to Jupiter, it gives us a lot of optimism. We are very lucky. We seem to have protection surrounding us. And with all that optimism coming in, we can overcome any difficulties and accomplish a lot. So, it gives us good focus, this energy. And with the sun in sextile to Ceres, we can be very flamboyant and entertaining as well. And they say sometimes the best form of healing is laughter. So I think if we are feeling a bit depressed right now, if we are kind of a bit burnt out with everything that's going on in the world, and we've been doing a lot of research and we're overloaded with information, and it's all feeling pretty negative right now. Maybe go and watch a comedy, meet up with some friends, and let your hair down. It's not going to hurt for one day, 2 days. Let's not stay in that mode of like negativity. Do you know what I mean? Let's burst the bubble and get out of that. Sometimes we need that time out just to nurture our own spirit, just to give us a little bit of upliftment. So, we are in the year now, the Chinese year of the wood dragon, and the dragon is the masculine of Ophiuchus. So the snake is actually the feminine side of Ophiuchus. So, this year is a very masculine energy, but with the dragon energy does come self-centeredness at times, but also protection. Once we've got over our own ego, once we get over our own self wounds or our own self healing, once we've done all the work on ourselves, then we're able to get into that protective mode over others. So the dragon energy this year is going to be a very protective energy. It's going to provide us with a lot of strength and a lot of willpower, as long as we don't get into that victim mentality. Because the Black Moon Lilith will be opposing Saturn a lot this year, like she was in the second half of last year. And it can be a very kind of like where we go down that rabbit hole, and it's very hard to kind of claw ourselves out of that. Sometimes we do need a little bit of laughter, depending on what our sense of humor is. So, we shouldn't feel guilty about that. But we should also stand up for what we believe is right. And no doubt about that. Anyway, we do need to balance the feminine with the masculine. And with this opposition here to the moon is about the self versus humanitarian values. So, this self-centered energy that many may be in, that we may witness many in at the moment, we need to see it for what it is and stand strong in our own spiritual convictions. And I'm going to leave it there, Kindred. And as always, I'm sending you peace and much love. Take care.